In a world obsessed with status, speed, and showing off, there's something unstoppable about the person who moves in silence, prepares in private, and strikes with precision. The smartest person in the room isn't always the loudest. It's the one who knows what everyone else missed. You don't need more talent. You don't need a bigger following. You need strategy. You need mindset. And above all, you need keys, not just to the next opportunity, but to a whole new level of the game. These are the 9 keys to outsmart everybody, not to compete in the game, but to change it. Let's unlock the first. You can't win a game you don't understand. And that's where most people fail before they even begin. They enter life like it's a guessing game. They walk into industries blind, relationships blind, dreams blind. They move fast, but without direction. They work hard, but without purpose. They try to win, but they don't even know the rules. That's why they stay stuck. That's why they repeat cycles. And that's why the smartest people in the room aren't always the most talented. They're just the most aware. They've studied the field. They've dissected the patterns. They've seen the game from the top down, not just from where they stand. When you're willing to study before you speak, when you're committed to understanding before acting, you become something dangerous, a thinker with precision. Most people are reactive. They jump into every opportunity, every argument, every trend. They chase what shines without ever asking who put this here and why does everyone want it? But the person who outsmarts the room steps back. They don't move until they understand the landscape. They map the players, they analyze the motives, they figure out who's influencing who, what's really being said beneath the surface, and how the system rewards or punishes behavior. This key separates those who get lucky from those who get leverage. It's not about manipulating others. It's about understanding how the entire system works so you're not caught in someone else's plan. Because that's the truth. If you don't have a plan, you're part of someone else's. And they're counting on your ignorance to keep their advantage. They want you moving fast. They want you confused. They want you emotional. But when you stop, zoom out, and learn the terrain, their control disappears. You want to outsmart everybody? Then learn the rules they're playing by, and then learn the rules they don't want you to know. Learn how they sell, how they persuade, how they win loyalty. Learn how influence works, not just on paper, but in motion. Study the environments you want to enter and figure out what drives success in those arenas. It's not always talent. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's alliances. Sometimes it's understanding who not to fight. And sometimes it's just knowing when to keep your mouth shut. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge, that's the real cheat code. That's when you start connecting dots that others don't even see. That's when you walk into a room and already know who thinks they're in control and how they're bluffing. That's when you hear what isn't being said. That's when you start predicting moves before they make them. And when you can do that, you don't chase opportunities, you create them. But here's the part most people miss. You don't just study the external game. You study the internal one too. You study yourself. You ask hard questions. What are my blind spots? What patterns keep showing up in my life? What emotions make me weak? Where do I self-sabotage? Because understanding the game starts inside. You can't master the world if you're losing the battle in your own mind. So you analyze your triggers, you dissect your failures, you become a student of your own history, not to beat yourself up, but to break free from the cycle. That level of self-awareness becomes your shield in a world full of noise. And the clearer you become about yourself, the less power anyone else has over you. You don't just become smart, you become unshakable because you're no longer operating off guesses. You're operating off truth, off facts, off patterns you've seen 1,000 times. And when everyone else is guessing, hoping, gambling, you're executing. You're adapting. You're reading the room and adjusting with surgical precision. Look at the best in any field. They're not just talented, they're tacticians. They know when to push and when to pull. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know how to gather information without giving any away. They know how to sit in meetings, read body language, and understand the politics underneath the smiles. They know when a yes means maybe and when a no is just a test of commitment. That's not luck. That's not intuition. That's mastery. And mastery doesn't come from just doing, it comes from studying, from slowing down, from asking better questions, from learning how systems work, how power is passed, how influence spreads, how trust is earned and manipulated. Most people only study the surface. So you study the structure underneath it. Because if you understand why something works, you can replicate it, you can scale it, you can use it in your own way, sharper, cleaner, faster. This is how you stop reacting to life and start engineering it. You shift from why is this happening to me to why is this always happening and how do I stop it forever? That shift in perspective makes you immune to distractions. While they're following the crowd, you're following the blueprint. While they're guessing at life, you're decoding it. And that makes you a threat because you're no longer operating on chance. You're operating on truth. You're no longer impressed by appearances. You're dialed into patterns. You're no longer asking for directions. You're building the map. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forces in the world. In a time where everyone's shouting, posting, proving, and performing, the one who stays quiet becomes a mystery. And in that mystery lies power. People are addicted to noise. They confuse motion with progress. They think being seen is the same as being significant. But the ones who truly dominate are often the ones you don't notice until it's too late. They let others make the noise while they make the moves. Silence isn't the absence of action, it's the disguise of it. When you move in silence, you take away their ability to anticipate you. You remove their ability to copy you. You starve them of anything they could use to discredit or distract you. Because the minute you broadcast your goals, the world forms opinions and energy starts to pull you in different directions. Now you're trying to please, impress, defend, or justify. But if you keep your mouth shut and your vision locked, nobody can dilute your direction. You stay pure. You stay lethal. They expect announcements. They expect buildup. They expect warnings, but the smartest ones know real growth happens in quiet seasons. The deepest transformations are private. Your breakthrough doesn't need a post. It needs discipline. Your vision doesn't need validation. It needs execution. While they're debating how to start, you've already built the foundation. While they're seeking applause, you're crafting something too strong to be ignored. Because silence doesn't just protect your power, it multiplies it. In the silence, you start to hear things others miss. You notice how people move when they think no one's watching. You see who respects your time and who just uses it. You pick up on tones, hesitations, contradictions. You become a student of behavior, not words. And that makes you wise. Because the one who listens more than they speak becomes the one who leads without trying. While others reveal everything, you reveal nothing. While they over-explain, you underplay. While they seek permission, you move with intention. And here's the truth. Most people talk to feel in control. They talk because they're afraid of being forgotten. They talk because silence feels like a threat to their ego. But the one who's secure, the one who's locked in, they don't need to be seen to believe in what they're doing. They don't need likes, shares, or comments to keep going. They're driven by something internal, not external. And that's what makes them unstoppable. Silence also buys you time to think, time to plan, time to test and adjust without pressure. It gives you space to observe the playing field while others are scrambling for attention. It creates a buffer between impulse and action. And in that space, you make sharper decisions. You calculate more accurately. You notice subtle changes that most miss because they're too loud to hear what life is actually whispering to them. It's not about being mysterious for the sake of it. It's about controlling your energy. It's about owning your presence. It's about realizing that not everything requires a response and not every moment needs to be shared. You don't owe anyone your thoughts, your process, or your plans. What you owe yourself is peace. What you owe your future is protection. And when you protect your focus from noise, distractions, and external judgment, you create the space where greatness can be born. People will question you. They'll misunderstand your silence. They'll assume you're doing nothing, and that's fine. Let them. Because while they underestimate you, they let their guard down. While they're relaxed, you're refining. While they're watching the loud ones, you're becoming the dangerous one. You don't need to correct their assumptions. You just need to keep building. And when the results come, there won't be a need for explanation. The most powerful moves are the ones nobody saw coming. The biggest shifts happen when no one's paying attention. You don't have to warn the world you're coming. Just arrive ready. You don't have to show every step. Just make the next one count. That's how you catch them off guard. That's how you change the game. Because silence is your cloak and discipline is your sword. And once they realize what you've built in the dark, once they see what you've become while they were watching someone else, it's already too late. You didn't just pass them, you became untouchable because they were looking for noise and you were crafting power. They were posting progress and you were becoming it. They thought silence meant weakness and you turned it into your sharpest weapon. The ability to delay gratification is the difference between those who dream and those who arrive. In a world obsessed with speed, likes, and instant everything, the one who can wait, the one who can hold the vision through silence, resistance, and boredom, becomes unstoppable. Because everybody wants the result, but very few can handle the process. They want the glory, not the grind. They want the win, but they flinch at the war. And that's exactly where you set yourself apart, not by how fast you go, but by how long you can wait while still moving forward. Success rarely comes to the most gifted. It comes to the most consistent, the person who trains when no one's watching, the person who keeps showing up when the progress is invisible, the one who sacrifices what feels good now for what's legendary later. That kind of patience is terrifying to the world. Because it can't be manipulated. It can't be distracted. It can't be stopped by delay, rejection, or dry seasons. That kind of person becomes a weapon because they're not looking for permission. They're not addicted to applause. They've already made up their mind and the outcome is inevitable. It's just a matter of when. The problem is we're conditioned for shortcuts. We're trained to chase dopamine, not discipline. We live in a culture that worships convenience and demonizes discomfort. And yet discomfort is where all the gold is buried. Everything you want lives in the season you're tempted to skip. But the one who outsmarts the crowd understands that time is not the enemy, it's the filter. It separates those who kind of want it from those who can't live without it. Time exposes everyone. Time rewards the one who keeps building in the dark. Time bows to the one who refuses to be rushed. You have to understand this deeply. There's a cost to greatness, and the price is usually time plus pain. Time spent growing in obscurity, time spent being overlooked, misunderstood, and underestimated. Pain from being passed up, ignored, doubted, and disrespected. But if you can sit in that fire without reaching for a shortcut, you come out forged. You come out ready. You come out as something no one can fake because your strength wasn't born in comfort. It was born in waiting well. Waiting well is an art. It means staying hungry while being patient. It means staying faithful even when the results are slow. It means resisting the temptation to settle just because it's taking longer than you thought. See, when people wait, most of them lose belief. But the ones who win, they don't wait in weakness, they wait in preparation. Every day, they sharpen their mind. Every night, they review the mission. They're not paused, they're preparing. So when the door finally opens, they don't walk through it, they own it. This is where you become rare. Because anyone can act motivated when they're seeing progress. But the elite, they stay focused when the progress is silent. They master the ability to keep doing what works even when it feels like nothing's working because they know the secret. The results don't come immediately, but the compound does. Every rep stacks, every hour matters, every hard choice builds a foundation, and when that compound effect finally hits, it looks like an explosion, but it wasn't magic. It was consistency plus time. And the ones who gave up early will swear you just got lucky. There will always be moments when it feels like nothing's happening. You'll question your path. You'll wonder if you're wasting your time. You'll see people who started later rising faster, and it will tempt you to shift direction. Don't. Hold your lane. That's the test. Can you keep planting seeds with no applause? Can you water your discipline without instant results? Can you keep doing the right thing long enough for it to work? Because if you can, they'll never catch you. You didn't just beat them in talent, you beat them in time endurance. And that's the one metric most people never train for. Most people break right before the blessing. They quit when they're tired, not when they're done. They want results in weeks that require years. But when you master patience, you break that cycle. You refuse to let frustration dictate your future. You look at the delays and say, good, more time to prepare. You look at the silence and say, perfect, let them forget me. I'll surprise them later. You don't just wait, you weaponize the wait. You make time work for you instead of against you. And that mindset, that's what makes you lethal. Patience isn't about sitting still. It's about showing up again and again with fire in your chest, even when there's nothing on the scoreboard. It's about trusting the process so deeply that quitting isn't even an option because the vision is bigger than the resistance. You didn't come this far to abandon the blueprint just because it's quiet. You didn't sacrifice that much just to fold under a delay. You've already paid too much. You've already bled too much. You've already been broken, refined, and remade. Now it's time to let time finish the rest. Your environment is either sharpening your edge or dulling your ambition. You rise or fall depending on who surrounds you, what you listen to, and what you tolerate. People think success is just about skill or mindset, but they overlook the one force that works silently on their soul, their circle. The wrong people can drain the fire out of a genius. The wrong energy can make the most brilliant ideas feel small. But when you're surrounded by alignment, pressure turns to power. When you're around the right people, you don't just grow, you evolve. The truth is, most people don't choose their environment. They inherit it. They stay stuck in toxic circles out of guilt, habit, or comfort. But comfort is a liar, and loyalty to the wrong crowd is the fastest way to betray your future. The harsh reality is this: if you spend your time with those who make excuses, who fear change, who laugh at ambition, you begin to shrink to fit their comfort zone. And before you know it, you're silencing your potential just to stay liked. You're watering yourself down so they don't feel insecure. And without realizing it, you've stopped becoming you. That's why the smartest people in the room aren't just intelligent, they're intentional. They curate their environment like their future depends on it. They guard their time like it's currency. They don't entertain gossip, pity parties, or victim mentalities. They surround themselves with people who challenge their thinking, stretch their limits, and raise their stand. Not yes men, not cheerleaders, but real ones, the kind who hold you accountable to the person you said you want to be. You have to be ruthless with access. Not everyone deserves to sit at the table of your focus. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can honor your past and still choose a different path. Growth will cost you relationships, comfort, and the illusion of safety. But staying small will cost you everything. You weren't born to repeat cycles. You weren't built to blend in. You're here to shift atmospheres, to break limits, to disrupt mediocrity, and you can't do that while entertaining conversations that don't align with your calling. Your environment isn't just the people, it's the content you consume. It's the thoughts you allow. It's the habits you reinforce. Every song, every podcast, every scroll, every conversation, it's either building you or breaking you. You have to become a gatekeeper. You have to filter the input if you want to upgrade the output. You can't expect clarity when you feed your mind confusion. You can't expect motivation when you're surrounded by mediocrity. If you want to change your life, you don't start with willpower, you start with exposure. Exposure is everything. When you've never seen excellence, you settle for average. But once you witness someone operating at the highest level, someone who talks different, moves different, thinks different, your standards shift. Your belief system expands. You stop asking, is this possible? And start asking, how far can I take this? That's the power of being around greatness. It rubs off on you. It infects your spirit. It rewires your expectations. Suddenly, what used to feel like a stretch becomes the starting point. But to get there, you have to cut the noise. You have to stop explaining your vision to people who have no appetite for growth. You have to stop negotiating your dreams with people who've already given up on theirs. You weren't made to be understood by everyone. Some people aren't supposed to support you. They're just there to remind you who not to become. And when you finally realize that, you stop chasing their approval. You stop waiting for them to believe in you. You stop handing your future to people who have no idea what to do with it. The game changes when you start choosing alignment over attachment. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear because your future deserves clarity. Your goals deserve protection and your energy deserves respect. That means you might have to walk alone for a season. You might have to distance yourself from the familiar. You might have to leave some people confused while you evolve in silence. But that season of isolation will teach you what no crowd ever could, how to depend on your own fire. And once that fire is lit, you'll stop begging others to light the way. You'll attract people who speak your language. You'll find rooms where your ideas aren't too big. They're just the beginning. You'll connect with minds that don't just get you, they grow you. And that alignment becomes your advantage because while others are managing distractions, you're mastering direction. While they're drowning in drama, you're doubling your discipline. While they're waiting to be invited, you're building the room. Your environment is not just a background, it's a mirror. It reflects what you tolerate. It reveals what you believe you deserve. So if you want to level up, stop fixing your goals and start fixing your surround. Because once you're in the right atmosphere, everything accelerates: belief, momentum, execution. It's not magic. It's proximity. It's being around people, energy, and content that forces you to rise, that makes it impossible to stay average, that pushes you to outsmart the patterns that used to trap you. The person who controls their emotions controls the outcome in every conflict, every conversation, every high-stakes decision. It's not the smartest or loudest who win, it's the most composed. Emotional intelligence is a hidden weapon. It's not talked about enough because it isn't flashy, it doesn't make noise, it doesn't beg for attention, but it dominates silently. When you stay calm in chaos, when you keep your inner world steady, no matter what storms are raging around you, you become a force that can't be manipulated. You become dangerous not because you overpower, but because you don't react, you respond. People are predictable. They reveal themselves when pressure hits. Anger, insecurity, desperation all come out when emotions run wild. But if you can stay grounded while others lose their balance, you hold the leverage. You make better decisions because your judgment isn't clouded by impulse. You choose when to speak, what to say, and how to say it, not out of emotion, but out of strategy. And that changes everything. It makes you the thermostat, not the thermometer. While everyone else reacts to the room, you set the tone. This kind of self-control isn't weakness, it's power at its highest level. It takes strength to pause. It takes wisdom to listen. It takes maturity to not let your ego run the show. Most people are led by emotion, and they don't even know it. They defend their pride. They chase validation. They explode when they feel disrespected. But the one who has mastered emotional control, they don't need the last word. They don't need to be right. They don't get baited into battles that drain their energy and derail their mission. They play the long game. They protect their peace like it's sacred because it is. You have to train yourself to stop being triggered. Life will test you. People will provoke you. Disrespect will show up unannounced. But if you react to everything, you give away your power every single time. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves a reaction. Some situations only exist to pull you out of character. And once you step out of your power to prove something to someone beneath your mission, you lose twice. You lose your focus and you lose your control. The smarter move is not to fight every battle. The smarter move is to know which war actually matters. Discipline over emotion is a mindset shift. It's the awareness that feelings are real, but they are not facts. You can feel frustrated and still be focused. You can feel insulted and still remain professional. You can feel fear and still move forward. The goal is not to suppress your emotions. The goal is to master them, to understand where they come from, to observe them without becoming them. Because once you know your triggers, you stop being controlled by them. Once you understand your patterns, you start breaking them. And that's when you begin to operate with intention, not reaction. You have to become unshakable. And that doesn't mean life stops testing you. It means you stop cracking under pressure. You stop letting circumstances dictate your identity. You stop allowing people to pull you into emotional quicksand. You rise above the noise. You move different. You walk into rooms with quiet confidence. You say less, but your energy says everything. You don't argue, you execute. You don't chase, you attract. Because your emotional control signals self-respect, and people respond to that with either admiration or fear. Both are useful. Think of how many situations you could have won if you hadn't reacted, how many doors you could have walked through if you had paused instead of exploded, how many connections you could have deepened if you had listened instead of defended. Emotional control doesn't just protect your peace, it protects your purpose. It's the line between a temporary win and long-term legacy. Because talent gets you noticed, but character keeps you there. And character is revealed in the moments where your emotions beg to take over. This doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you channel those feelings into focus. Anger becomes fuel. Fear becomes strategy. Sadness becomes reflection. You stop wasting energy on reaction, and you start investing it in elevation. You walk into chaos with calm. You walk into conflict with clarity. You walk into pressure with poise. And suddenly, you're the one people look to, not because you're louder, not because you're forceful, but because your presence says, I'm in control of me and of this moment. And when you learn to master yourself, nobody else can. They can't pull you off your path with petty distractions. They can't push your buttons because you've disabled them. You no longer move based on how you feel. You move based on where you're going. You're no longer enslaved to every emotion that shows up. You observe it, acknowledge it, and move with discipline anyway. And in that moment, you're no longer being outsmarted. You've become the one who plays at a higher level. While they're arguing, you're advancing. While they're reacting, while they're emotionally exhausted, you're emotionally weaponized, calm, clear, calculated, and completely in control. You cannot outsmart the world with shallow moves. To truly outsmart everyone, you need to develop depth. Depth in your thoughts, depth in your approach, depth in your understanding of what makes people tick. Most people operate on surface level understanding, and that's where they lose. They take the easy route. They look at things and people just as they are, accepting the surface as truth. But the ones who master the art of depth, those who understand the layers beneath the obvious, are the ones who make the real impact. They see things others don't. They hear things others miss. They notice patterns before they become obvious. And that's what sets them apart. To develop depth, you need to learn to dig beneath the surface. It's not enough to just know what's presented to you. Anyone can take a headline, a piece of gossip, or a quick glance and form an opinion. But the real masters, they question what's given. They understand that things are rarely as simple as they appear. They see beyond the surface to what's driving the actions, to the motivations behind the words, and to the consequences lying just below what's visible. This is the true key to outsmarting everyone. The ability to read the room, the situation, and the dynamics at play with a level of insight most will never even attempt to grasp. Depth in your approach means going beyond the immediate. It means resisting the temptation of taking shortcuts, of rushing towards a result without considering the long-term impact. Many people fall into this trap. They want quick success, they want instant results, but in reality, those who outsmart the crowd know that success is a marathon, not a sprint. They understand that true mastery comes from digging deep into the processes, understanding every detail, and working through the challenges with resilience. They're not looking for quick wins. They're looking for sustainable victories that will endure. The challenge is that depth requires time and patience. It requires a commitment to consistently show up even when the results aren't immediately visible. It requires a hunger for knowledge and understanding that isn't satisfied with surface level facts. And that's where most people falter. They don't want to put in the time. They don't want to look deeper. They're impatient for the prize, not willing to pay the price. But those who outsmart others don't make that mistake. They understand that time invested in gaining deeper knowledge will eventually pay off in ways the impatient simply can't foresee. Understanding people is one of the most powerful ways to develop depth. Too many individuals approach relationships, business, and life interactions from a place of assumption. They think they know what others want, what drives them, what makes them tick. But the ones who truly outsmart the game dig deeper, They ask the questions others are afraid to ask. They seek to understand the fears, the desires, and the motives that influence behavior. They listen more than they speak, allowing the world around them to reveal itself in layers. When you begin to see people for who they really are, when you start to understand their true intentions, you become an unstoppable force. You don't just react to what's in front of you, you respond based on an understanding of the bigger picture. In business, depth means looking beyond the transaction. It's not just about closing the deal. It's about understanding the long-term relationship, the potential collaborations, and the future implications of the choices you make today. Many people approach business from a transactional mindset. They want a deal now, a sale now. But those who outsmart others take a deeper view. They build connections, nurture trust, and look for opportunities that will lead to something bigger, something that will stand the test of time. They're not just aiming for the quick win. They're working towards sustainable, lasting success. Depth is also a mindset. It's the ability to think critically and creatively, to not settle for easy answers or surface solutions. When everyone else is satisfied with the first answer, you're the one digging deeper to find the truth. When everyone else is focused on the obvious, you're looking for the nuance, the detail that everyone else overlooked. This is the difference between playing the game and changing the game. It's about seeing beyond what's immediately in front of you and creating a vision that others can't even imagine. It's not just about knowledge, it's about wisdom. Wisdom comes from understanding not just the facts, but the context, the underlying forces that drive events, and people. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait. It's about knowing that the right choice isn't always the easiest one, but the one that will set you up for long-term success. This depth of understanding doesn't happen overnight. It takes experience, it takes learning, and it takes the willingness to fail and keep going. The final piece of the puzzle is the ability to apply depth in real time. It's not enough to just understand things at a deeper level. You have to act on it. You have to make decisions that reflect your deeper understanding, even when they're not the popular choice. You have to be willing to trust your insights, your judgment, and your experience, even when others are running in the opposite direction. That's the moment when you outsmart everyone, because you're not just acting based on surface level impulses or societal trends. You're acting with the wisdom that comes from truly understanding the game, the people, and the world you're navigating. When you commit to developing depth, you stop playing catch-up. You stop trying to keep up with trends and gimmicks. You become the one who sets the pace. You outsmart those who only see what's in front of them by recognizing the unseen forces and hidden opportunities, and in doing so, you set yourself on a path that not only leads to success, but to a legacy of lasting impact. The ability to adapt is not just a survival mechanism. It's the difference between stagnation and success. People often think that being successful means having a rigid plan, sticking to a formula, or following a set path. But the truth is, the world doesn't work that way. Success isn't about knowing the exact steps ahead of time. It's about being able to pivot, to shift when necessary, and to embrace change with open arms. You don't outsmart everyone by being stubborn. You do it by staying flexible, by knowing when to adapt and when to stay the course. It's easy to get attached to the way things are. The world tends to move fast, and people often feel like they're constantly chasing something new, something bigger, something better. But the smarter move, the more calculated choice, is learning to roll with the punches and adjust your strategy. You see, when the world shifts, when challenges arise, the most successful people are those who don't panic. They stay present, assess the new reality, and respond accordingly. They don't cling to the past. They don't resist change. They take the new circumstances and make them work in their favor. Adaptation doesn't mean constantly changing who you are or what you stand for. It means recognizing when something isn't working and shifting your approach. It means having the intelligence and emotional maturity to recognize when a strategy has run its course and to try something new. You outsmart the competition, not by stubbornly sticking to a failing method, but by pivoting when needed, by learning from the mistakes and challenges, and by being resourceful in the face of change. The world around us doesn't stay the same. People change, industries change, and circumstances shift. The question isn't whether change will happen The question is, how will you respond? Too many people get stuck in their ways, so attached to their original plan that they can't see when it's no longer effective. They become predictable. They become outdated. And before they realize it, they're left behind. But the people who outsmart others are the ones who stay nimble. They don't build walls around themselves. They build bridges. They keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep moving forward, even when the landscape looks completely different from what they expected. You can't be afraid to change your approach. Adapting means having the courage to step into unknown territory, to experiment, to try new things, and to make mistakes. It means being okay with uncertainty. It's about having the foresight to know when to stay the course and when to change direction. And this is a skill that many people overlook. They get too comfortable with their successes, too attached to their original ideas. And when things don't go as planned, they flounder. But the successful know that failure isn't the end. It's just a sign that they need to adjust. Failure only becomes permanent when you don't learn from it, when you don't pivot. Those who outsmart others understand the importance of continuous growth and learning. They know that what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow, and they don't become complacent with yesterday's methods. They are always seeking new information, testing new strategies, and challenging their own thinking. They don't fear being wrong. They fear staying stagnant. They fear not evolving. And that's why they outsmart everyone around them, because while others are stuck in their old ways, they are consistently evolving, staying one step ahead. The real secret to outsmarting everyone is not to be the smartest in the room, but to be the one who can shift and adapt the quickest. Success doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from being willing to embrace change, to pivot when necessary, and to turn obstacles into opportunities. Those who can adapt with agility and intelligence are the ones who find new paths when the old ones are closed off. They innovate when others get stuck. They evolve, not just because they have to, but because they choose to. One of the most important aspects of adaptation is resilience. It's about bouncing back after a setback, maintaining your focus even when the game changes unexpectedly. You have to be prepared for the fact that life will throw curveballs. The key is not to be knocked off course. The key is to stay in the game long enough to figure out how to navigate the shift. People who outsmart others don't let failure or unexpected challenges stop them. They roll with the punches and come out the other side stronger and smarter. Adapting isn't just about reacting, it's about being proactive, about anticipating changes before they happen. You outsmart others when you can predict trends, when you can sense when the world is about to shift, and when you can make moves before everyone else catches on. This requires not just intelligence, but awareness. It requires you to be in tune with your surroundings, to understand the forces at play, and to be able to read the signs of change before they become obvious to everyone else. Ultimately, the power to adapt is what separates the winners from the losers. The people who outsmart others are the ones who understand that success isn't about resisting change. It's about mastering it. It's about being so comfortable with uncertainty that you can find opportunity in any situation. When you embrace change with open arms and a clear mind, you become unstoppable. When you adapt quickly, you become the one everyone else is chasing. You aren't just surviving, you're thriving. And that's the key to outsmarting everyone else. It's not about knowing the future, it's about knowing how to move with it. The future isn't fixed, it's malleable. And you have the power to shape it by how well you adapt. There's a fine line between being busy and being productive. So many people spend their time running in circles, doing everything and accomplishing nothing. They check off tasks, put in hours, and stay occupied. But at the end of the day, they realize they've made little to no progress toward their goals. The real key to outsmarting everybody is not about how much you do, it's about what you focus on and how effectively you channel your energy. It's about working smarter, not harder. Most people get distracted by the noise. They allow the constant demands of life to pull them in a million different directions. They answer every email, attend every meeting, respond to every message, and follow every trend, all while convincing themselves that they're working hard. But the truth is, they're not moving the needle. They're getting lost in the details, consumed by the tasks that don't matter. They're being busy, not productive. And as a result, they're stuck in a cycle of motion without progress. The key to outsmarting others is knowing what matters. It's about identifying the highest value tasks and dedicating your focus and energy to them. It's about cutting out the distractions that don't serve your long-term goals and saying no to the things that won't move you forward. The most successful people don't spend their time on low-priority activities. They prioritize. They recognize that their time is finite, and they make every moment count. They are deliberate with their actions. They know that real success comes from strategic effort, not from mindless action. To do this effectively, you have to know where your energy is best spent. You need to identify your strengths, your passions, and your unique value, and then align your efforts with those areas. When you focus on what you do best, you can achieve more in less time. The world doesn't need you to be a jack of all trades. It needs you to be the best at what you're truly capable of. And that means cutting through the noise, narrowing your focus, and refusing to get sidetracked by the things that won't bring you closer to your ultimate vision. This doesn't mean you should ignore all responsibilities or neglect the smaller details. It means you need to be intentional. You need to think critically about where you invest your time and energy. You need to be ruthless in your decision-making, constantly asking yourself, is this the best use of my time? If the answer is no, then it's time to reevaluate. Outsmarting others doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things. Another powerful aspect of focus is the ability to tune out distractions. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Social media notifications, emails, phone calls, and the never-ending demands of life are constantly pulling at our attention. The key to staying focused and outsmarting others is learning to block out the noise. This requires self-discipline. It requires you to have the ability to say no to the things that don't matter and to ignore the things that try to steal your focus. The people who master their focus are the ones who get things done, the ones who make significant strides toward their goals, while others are still spinning their wheels. Focus also involves patience. People often give up too soon, believing that they need to be successful right away, but success takes time. It takes persistence. It takes consistent effort over a long period. The people who outsmart everyone else are the ones who understand this truth. They're not rushing to the finish line. They're building the foundation step by step and trusting the process. They stay focused on their long-term vision and ignore the short-term distractions. They know that their hard work will pay off if they stay committed, and that's what sets them apart from those who give up too easily. You also have to protect your focus. The world is filled with opportunities, but not all of them are worth chasing. The most successful people know this, and they guard their focus fiercely. They choose their battles wisely. They know that saying yes to everything means saying no to their most important goals. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you take away time and energy from what truly matters. The key is to have the courage to say no when necessary, to create boundaries, and to ensure that every action you take brings you closer to your vision. Outsmarting others comes from the ability to maintain that single-minded focus, to avoid the temptation of chasing shiny objects, and to stay committed to your course. The world will try to pull you in a million directions, but the most successful people are the ones who stay grounded. They keep their eyes on the prize and don't get distracted by the noise. They're laser focused on their goals, and that's why they make progress while others stagnate. But focus is not just about staying on task. It's about knowing when to pivot. The ability to stay focused doesn't mean being rigid. It means being able to change course when necessary. When you focus on the right things, you're open to new opportunities, new information, and new ways of thinking. You're not afraid to adapt your approach when it's necessary, but you do it strategically. You don't abandon your focus, you realign it. You adjust your path while staying true to your ultimate goal. When you understand the power of focus, you understand the power of your time. Time is the one resource that can never be reclaimed. Once it's gone, it's gone. The people who outsmart everyone else know this, and they treat their time with the respect it deserves. They don't waste it on things that don't matter. They spend it wisely, carefully selecting the tasks, relationships, and activities that will drive them forward. When you embrace this focus, when you learn how to cut out the distractions, align your efforts with your strengths, and guard your time, you'll outsmart everyone around you. You'll be the one making consistent progress while others are still caught in the cycle of busyness. You'll achieve more with less effort because you've mastered the art of focus, and that is the real key to success. You've heard the saying, it's not about what you know, but who you know. This statement, while partially true, misses a crucial point. Yes, relationships matter, but what truly sets people apart, what truly allows someone to outsmart everyone else, is their ability to build, nurture, and leverage the right kind of relationships. It's not enough to simply know people. You need to know how to use your connections strategically, how to make them work for your long-term success. Success isn't just about personal skills or knowledge. It's about creating a network of support, opportunities, and influence. Building meaningful relationships isn't a passive endeavor. It's an active, intentional process that requires effort, authenticity, and a willingness to give before you expect to receive. Many people fall into the trap of transactional thinking when it comes to relationships. They think that relationships are simply about getting something in return, that they should only help or invest in others if there's an immediate benefit. But that kind of short-term thinking won't get you very far. To outsmart others, you must approach relationships with a long-term mindset, seeing them as investments that will compound over time. Relationships, when nurtured properly, are one of the most powerful assets you can have. The most successful individuals understand this dynamic. They don't just network, they build deep, lasting connections. They prioritize quality over quantity. It's not about how many people you know. It's about how well you know them. The key is to connect with people on a human level, to engage with them authentically, and to offer value without any expectation of immediate reciprocation. This is the foundation of a truly powerful network. Relationships, when cultivated correctly, open doors that would otherwise remain closed. They give you access to information, opportunities, and resources that would be otherwise out of reach. But it's important to remember that these doors don't open by chance. You have to build the trust and rapport that allows people to want to help you when the time comes. That means showing up for others, supporting them in their own endeavors, and being genuinely interested in their success. It's about investing in people, not just in your own success. However, just building relationships isn't enough. You also need to learn how to leverage them strategically. The people you connect with, from mentors and peers to colleagues and influencers, can help you advance in ways that would be impossible on your own. But in order to leverage relationships effectively, you need to understand how to add value to others and how to align your goals with theirs. When you can find ways to support the people in your network and offer them value, they'll be far more likely to support you in return. This reciprocal nature of relationships is what makes them so powerful. The trick is to be patient. Relationships take time to grow and develop. You cannot rush them. The more genuine interest you show, the more support you provide, and the more value you add, the more your network will grow organically. But it's important to recognize that networking isn't about taking shortcuts. It's not about jumping from one person to the next, trying to find someone who can help you right away. It's about building a strong foundation, one relationship at a time, and understanding that sometimes the best opportunities come from the least expected sources. One of the most powerful things you can do with your relationships is to tap into the collective intelligence of your network. When you build meaningful relationships with people across different fields, industries, and backgrounds, you create a powerful ecosystem of knowledge. You gain access to insights, advice, and perspectives that you would never have on your own. This network of minds, all coming from different angles, can help you solve problems, innovate, and find solutions to challenges that might seem insurmountable. The key is to be proactive about cultivating relationships with people who can offer you new perspectives, and to stay open-minded enough to listen when they share their ideas. But this isn't a one-way street. Building meaningful relationships is about giving as much as you get. The most successful people know that if they're going to ask others for help, they need to be willing to offer their help first. They know that the more they give, the more they will receive in return. This mindset of abundance, of giving without expecting anything in return, is what allows people to build powerful, supportive networks that can last a lifetime. It's about being generous with your time, your knowledge, and your resources, knowing that the energy you put into others will eventually come back to you, often in ways you can't predict. But perhaps the most important aspect of relationships is trust. Trust is the foundation of every successful relationship, and it's what allows people to help you when you need it the most. Without trust, relationships are hollow. They don't provide the support or the opportunities that you need. Building trust takes time, but it can be easily lost in an instant. To outsmart everyone else, you must consistently act with integrity, keep your promises, and treat others with respect. Trust is a two-way street. It's not just about earning the trust of others, but also being trustworthy yourself. When people trust you, they'll be more likely to open doors for you, offer advice, and take the time to support your endeavors. That's how relationships turn into opportunities. Ultimately, the key to outsmarting everyone else is understanding the power of relationships, not as transactions, but as a long-term strategy for success. Relationships, when nurtured and leveraged with care, become an incredible asset. They provide you with access to opportunities, support, and resources that you wouldn't otherwise have. They help you solve problems, innovate, and grow, and they empower you to take on challenges that might seem insurmountable on your own. The most successful people are the ones who know how to build, nurture, and strategically leverage relationships because they understand that no one achieves success alone. It's the strength of your network that will allow you to outsmart everyone else and ultimately achieve your goals. When you understand how to outsmart everybody, you stop fearing people. You stop competing with them. You stop being impressed by surface level success. Instead, you start seeing the truth. You see the patterns. You see their weaknesses. You see their blind spots. And most importantly, you see your own power. You don't chase anymore. You position. You don't speak to be heard, you speak to move. You don't play small, you play invisible until the moment it's time to strike. Let them have the spotlight, you'll have the leverage, because the quiet ones, the underestimated ones, the strategic ones, they don't just win, they change the game entirely. From follower to founder, from imitator to innovator, from being watched to being studied. Outsmarting everybody isn't about being better than them. It's about becoming so precise in your thinking, so disciplined in your behavior, and so evolved in your strategy that no one can touch you. They'll try to figure out your steps, but they won't realize you were dancing to music they couldn't even hear. You've heard the 9 keys. You've felt the shift, but none of it means anything unless you apply it. The world is filled with people who almost got it, who almost rose, who almost figured it out until life distracted them, or ego blinded them, or fear froze them. Don't be one of them. Use every key, live every truth, build in silence, move in mastery, speak with fire. And most importantly, think in a way they'll never expect. Because the moment you master this mindset, you won't just outsmart everybody, you'll become untouchable.